Did you know that if you've been seriously hurt in a crash, there's a secret formula to get the insurance company to not only pay for your medical bills and your lost wages that happened in the past, but also get them to compensate you for the medical bills that you're going to have in the future? And this is not something the insurance company is going to tell you about. So if you don't have a lawyer and you have a serious injury and you're looking at the likelihood where you're going to have medical bills after your case settles, you definitely need to watch this video and probably need to hire a lawyer. So why would you need a settlement that compensates you for medical bills in the future? Well, every state has a statute of limitations. In Virginia, the statute of limitations is 2 years. In Maryland, where we also practice, it's 3 years. But in some cases, like Tennessee, it's only 1 year. And so if you are in one of these states and you need a surgery, for instance, well, it's very easy for your treatment timeline to just stretch long enough that you're going to be beyond the statute of limitations. So let's think about that. So you go to an emergency room. Let's think about like a disc problem. You have a problem in your neck or in your lower back, and ultimately you need a surgery for it. Well, the usual course for that is like you go to an emergency room, you go to your primary care doctor, you get referred to a specialist, an orthopedist or a neurosurgeon. You usually will do some physical therapy. You probably have some numbness or tingling into your hands or into your feet that's concerning, but hope the doctors think like maybe it'll go away, right? It doesn't go away with physical therapy. They might try some injections to either identify exactly where the problem is or see if the injections will help the disc and make the problem go away. Right? Might send you out for an MRI, but at this point we're talking like you're probably 9 or 12 months out from the date of your crash where they're talking to you about surgery, because surgery is a major thing. It's an invasive thing. They're going to put like a cage around some of the vertebrae in your spine, so they don't want to rush into that. So now we're 9 or 12 months down the road where you're talking about surgery, maybe 12 or 15 months by the time you're scheduled and you get it done. You get out of surgery, do another 8 to 10 weeks of physical therapy, and now we're talking about being 15 or 18 months from the date of the crash. Well, we talked about the statute of limitations in some states is 1 year, but in Virginia, where I primarily practice, it's 2 years, 24 months. And so at 18 months, we got to be making decisions about filing a lawsuit or sending a demand package to the insurance company. And in a very small subset of cases, your doctor already knows at 18 months that the surgery didn't work. You might have what's called a non-union. You might have a failure in the surgery. You might have a screw that's moving. I had a case years ago where we had a clavicle plate and the plate failed to take. I had to go back in and redo the surgery. And so talking about surgeries that are now getting done after the statute of limitations is passed. There's 2 ways to approach that. Number one, you can file a lawsuit and kind of litigate the case while you're still collecting the doctor's opinions. Or number 2, if the insurance policy limits work out to be kind of in the right number, you can construct a claim for the policy limits. And you could do that by asking your doctors to give you a formal written opinion about the need for the surgery, the cost of the surgery, and the magic formula that I mentioned at the beginning of the video is this language that we have that's called within a reasonable degree of medical probability. What does that mean? It's a fancy way of saying more likely than not. But your doctor has to say that it's more likely than not that in the future you're going to need a surgery. And it's more likely than not that the surgery is going to cost whatever the surgery is going to cost. And then it's more likely than not, are you noticing a pattern? It's more likely than not that the surgery is related to your crash. Even if you have a prior history of complaints to the neck or to the back, even if you have a prior history of physical therapy or chiropractic care, doctor has to review all those medical records from both before the crash and after the crash, if you have previous care, and say it's more likely than not that the crash was the proximate cause, the but-for cause, sometimes we call it, for the need of this future surgery, this second surgery that you're going to have. And if your doctor is able to say all of those things, then you have a valid and legitimate claim to ask the insurance company to pay for not only your past medical bills, but your future medical bills. And we would only do that in a case where we knew that if we made that claim and the insurance company offered us their policy limits, there wasn't any other money behind door number 2, right? If we didn't know for sure that that was all the available money, or we couldn't get to the policy limit, then we wouldn't make that claim. We would want to make sure that the second surgery worked. Because if the second surgery doesn't work, now we need to make a claim about your permanent disability, get you rated by functional capacity doctor, probably have you seen by a vocational expert, probably, and build up a much larger claim. But a lot of these cases, unfortunately, are capped by insurance coverage, either $300,000 or $500,000 worth of coverage. And most people who are driving around don't have money to pay you a judgment in excess of that. So the reality is, a lot of cases, what we're looking at is the insurance policy limits, and that's it. And so if we can add your previous medical bills, your past medical bills, to the claim for future medical bills and get to the policy limit, amazing, let's do that. If there's a reason to think that there's some money beyond the insurance policy limit, we probably wouldn't be constructing the claim and trying to settle it while you were still in medical care. But there is that set of cases where, even though you're still in medical care, this is all the money that there is, all the money that ever will be, and it would be better if that money were in your pocket than sitting with the insurance company. While we're doing that analysis, we want to make sure that we've located all the sources of insurance company. And we got a couple other videos on this channel talking about how to find all the insurance coverage. But we want to make sure that we're looking at the driver of the car, the owner of the car, if they're different than the driver, looking at policies in your house on your underinsured motorist policy, any policies that are owned by family members that are separate than yours, and then resident coverage inside the driver's house, and then probably like, were they working for somebody, were they driving for Uber or Lyft or DoorDash or somebody like that. So all these places that your injury lawyer would look to make sure that we have actually collected all the insurance coverage when we're making a claim for your future medical costs. But I'll end with this. If you've been in a crash where you're watching a video and trying to learn how to make a claim for future medical costs, you need a lawyer. Not every case needs a lawyer, but crashes where you've had a surgery, you've had a lot of care, and you need more, and you're watching YouTube videos learning how to get more, save yourself the hassle, save yourself the learning to be the expert, and save yourself from the risk of doing it wrong. If you're in Virginia or Maryland and you have a crash, reach out to my office. And if you're in any other state, you can reach out to my office anyway, and we'll connect you with somebody in our nationwide network of lawyers to make sure you get into the right place to get all the money that you're owed from the insurance company.